there are 4 things that I discovered while studying film, and they are: 1, exploring different aspects of film, the power of visual storytelling, learning the importance of collaboration, and developing a personal creative voice. Discovering what film truly means to me. Well, so let's start from the beginning, yeah? I think it was the year 2021, yeah? Yeah, I encountered Joel on Instagram, a really good creator. At the time, he was doing like gym motivational videos. He introduced me to cinematic content, and I think from then, I just kept following him up. Not necessarily copy and paste, but like almost studying what he was doing and how he got the shots. And then afterwards, I encountered some other cinematic content creators on YouTube specifically. And I think from then, I just never stopped. When I first got to school here, I think it was the first semester was not about film. It was all preliminaries, like some English courses and all of that. But it was fun because I then understood even better on how to write. I think when you understand how to write, you then can tell better stories. I believe that. So I grasped those skills and abilities in the first semester, but the second semester was really like, jaja bro, just start film, excited, intro to film class. That was really good. This is kind of cool though. I'm gonna make a bunny that's kind of fire. I'm not gonna lie to you, but one point is the power of visual storytelling. How did I get to understand the power of visual storytelling? So I think over the years when I just started, it wasn't necessarily about telling a story. It was just trying to get shots and then just trying to like copy everybody else that was just doing the same thing. So like, you get wide shots, close, medium. I was just copying and pasting, to be very honest with you. But then I think over time, you understand, especially in school, while I'm doing film, especially in principles of sound and image, as I previously stated, you understand the importance of each frame, yeah? So each frame, literally, whatever is in the frame, should place emphasis on, or should help the audience understand the story that you're trying to tell a lot better. So every frame should not be wasted. So I'm reading this book called Tell to Win, and they place emphasis on what's the most interesting thing about walking down the street, right? This is me giving an example. You're not gonna show me walking or making each step down the street because that's not interesting. You wanna leave the audience with a sense of unknown, right? So you're not gonna continue showing them every bit and every way on how I got to the end of the street. You're gonna wanna show me how I reached the tree, how I got to the tree, how I got to the next car, how I felt when I got to the next car, how I feel eventually at the end of the street. Those are 3 things that you would need to show, which is very important in storytelling. Depicting and showing exactly what and how the character feels at different points in time within the story in its entirety. So that's what I've learned so far in storytelling. Alright, so the third point is learning the importance of collaboration. What's interesting is that I never necessarily thought about collaborating with people. I always thought that, I can do this by myself. I can get stuff done by myself. I don't need anyone. That didn't make any sense, because what I then found out not late, but I found out that within this industry, you need people. You need people, bro. You can't be in this space, this creative space, this filmmaking, this producer, this production space without collaborating with people. And it makes no sense for me to do all of this by myself. So when I first got to school here, it was endorsed. It was somewhat forced for us to work in groups, to work on projects, to make sure that we get what we need to get from one another. And let me tell you something. One of the most underestimated things that we tend to look over whenever we're in group projects is the different perspectives that everyone in that group has to give, right? I think having a different view to the same problem is astronomically, it's just a great view to have. I don't know, I was trying to use a whole big word for that, but it's just a great view to have. One thing that we also need to do is to maintain connections, right? So let's write this down, yeah? One thing you don't want to do though is lose the connection.
Look at my spit. I got shorts, every color, Scarface on repeat.
It was just this weird sort of thing that
And just ship out to Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Movies aren't staying in movie theaters as long as they used to. They used to stay in movie theaters a while, so it used to be possible to build an audience, to get people to come to the movie after 2 or 3 or 4 or more weeks. That used to be the case. I mean, even in my lifetime, back in the 90s, movies would stay in movie theaters.
Neorealism, we tend to see it often now within the films that we're watching now, such as Oppenheimer and a couple of other films, maybe not necessarily Batman, but but some other films that seem truly real to us. Where did that really come from? And how long has it been around?
Right. Neorealism can be thought of as an intensification of realism, a heightened realism, a stronger, a more intense, a more involving naturalism, right? A more sustained naturalism. Mm-hmm. And it's often associated with Italian cinema. It developed in Italy in the 1940s. It wasn't necessarily a school of filmmaking. It was a style of filmmaking that was practiced by a range of individuals and resulted in a diversity of films, a relative diversity of films. But one common strategy was to take a realistic approach to everyday life, to emphasize dailiness, the daily habits of individuals, of communities. It is often described as a post-war, a post-World War II, a post-1945 style. Some argue that the first significant Italian neorealist film came out in 1942. So filmmakers like De Sica and Rossellini showing the reality of Italy during and after this catastrophic global conflict, right? So shooting on location. Not all Italian neorealist films were made on location. Some were actually shot in studios, but probably the most famous Italian neorealist films incorporated a great deal of location shooting and long takes. So offering long takes, to minimize the audience's awareness of the mechanics of cinema, limiting montage, limiting the kinds of devices that can create meaning, and just
Watch. Yeah, just
letting reality unfold.
play itself. Yeah. So a lot of, even on social media today, a lot of persons are doing video postcards where you're just seeing the whole scene just play out in itself, whether the birds are flying by, whether you're hearing the sound around the subject, around the person watching whatever is going on.
Exactly.
And even though, and I'm kind of baffled as to how long it's lasted now, and how we have different derivatives of neorealism or realism in general. One other thing though, I wanted to ask, because I'm seeing it in commercials now with an artistic approach. I think it's more so the, what do you call it, man? Experimental?
Experimentalism.
Experimentalism.
Yeah, experimental, avant-garde, right?
Expound a little bit more as to what is it really? I think it's more of an abstract, or more shapes you see, more maybe on a wide lens of someone coming closer to the lens, and it's distorted.
Yes.
So those are an artistic approach, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you could argue that that level of experimentalism is a reaction to neorealism. It's an alternative to neorealism. It maybe represents a backlash against the neorealist style, but neorealism itself was a response to the perceived constraints of Italian cinema in the 30s and early 40s, fascist films that were made in the major Italian studios and that were known as white telephone films because they were so antiseptic and they so often featured the upper class and individuals smoking and placing calls on white telephones. And just, they weren't necessarily speaking to the reality of life, the reality experienced by the majority of Italians. And so neorealism was a response to that. And you could say that a certain avant-gardism, a certain experimentalism emerged later, even in Italy in the 1950s, as a reaction to neorealism. Because for some, neorealism is itself oppressive, is itself limited, is itself not able to adequately evoke psychological experiences. And so even in the world of commercial advertisements, we see a certain degree of experimentalism, an avant-garde style that is almost the opposite of neorealism.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Often one of the most to think about what that light will hit, and just as importantly, what it won't hit to create the image I want. That image enters the lens and hits the camera sensor, but doesn't just stop there. In post, everything I do is in an effort to shape and color and optimize that light. And if I do my job correctly, when that light is emitted from your screen and finally meets your eyes, it's one of the last things you notice. For a lot of independent creators, lighting is often one of the most overlooked parts of the process. At least it was for me when I first began my filmmaking journey. Because, let's face it, the other components like your lens or your camera often outshine it. No pun intended. But if you take a look behind the scenes of any major production, you'll quickly realize that lighting is the #1 priority when they begin to set the scene and prepare to bring their visions to life. This is because professional filmmakers understand one critical truth that a lot of hobbyists and freelancers just simply don't. Good lighting is invisible. Bad lighting is impossible to miss. You do not need a expensive mirrorless or cinema camera. All of the lighting techniques and principles that I want to share with you guys today will work with any.
Yeah, so, and with that being said, brings us to point number 4, finding your creative voice. So one of the things that I started doing content creation for some time now. I think 3 years, on and off. back and forth. Never, is it underexposed? When I've been doing content creation for like 3 years, on and off, it got from bad to worse, and then kind of good now, I guess. But finding a creative voice is something that is somewhat hard, or I believe is somewhat, we kind of overthink it sometimes. And I think I was watching a video the other day that if you get to a point where you feel lost in creating content, it's because you never started out creating the content and you were being you, right? So I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to create content where I'm still maintaining me or being the best of me, where whoever joins the community, whoever is watching me or whoever sticks with me knows me for me and they stick with me for me. It's almost like I was telling my friend last night, Jenny, big up Jenny. The reason why Kylie Jenner, whatever she drops, she can drop Dude tomorrow. People is gonna buy that. Because she built such a fan base that they love her for her, no matter what. It's like when Vybz Kartel just came out of prison or jail or whatever. They still rock with him. What if the man did actually kill Lizard? Like, them still rock with the bro. Because the man them stick with him for him. So, with that being said, I think anybody who's trying to find a creative voice, which I'm trying to do still, just be yourself. Create content that you would want to watch. You would look back and say, yo, you know, this is actually good. Yeah, this is actually good. Just do that. But yeah, big up on yourself, man. Keep this short. No interviews today, but no interviews this week. I think, yeah, I kind of like this. I kind of feel like myself. Tell me what you guys think. I like this version, this way of getting the information out there and my vision and my journey. But yeah, tell me what you guys think and big up on yourself.